Today on TQA Weekly, I talk about how to make your computer boot faster and I even show you the geek wall. My name is Steve Smith. This episode is kind of a novelty, but of course this is TQA Weekly and I do answer your questions. And after I am done all of this, I'll be showing you that geek wall I'm working behind. I actually worked on it all weekend. The office is still not finished, so I'll explain to you eventually what that office is, but at the end of the episode I will show you that wall. So first of all, how does one get their computer to boot faster? What is so novelty about it is the fact that none of this is actually required to get a computer to load fast. We're specifically talking about faster. And for the most part, the reason why it's called a novelty is most people won't care how fast your computer loads. They'll be amazed maybe, but they probably won't care. This is more for those elite people that actually like things that boot faster and actually consider the fact that because something boots faster, we actually save time in the long run. So first of all, you will never get a computer to boot faster than having a clean install of Windows. And if you are a power user like me, a clean install of Windows is probably necessary every 6 months to a year. Having a clean install of Windows also prevents you from having a whole bunch of junk start up on Windows at the beginning of Windows. That junk actually makes your computer take longer in Windows to actually go down to idle. The time it takes Windows to power and go to idle is actually part of boot time. Now, the next thing you can possibly do to get a computer to load faster and as well get all the applications to load faster is to actually use an SSD drive instead of an HDD drive. So no spinny little disks, go for the flash one. It will actually load faster and don't care about the speed. You will not be able to perceive the difference. Let's not forget, depending on how many drives that you actually have connected to the SATA controller, you will actually cut down on the bandwidth anyway. So it doesn't matter how fast the drive is, you will not perceive the difference anyway. Then, after all this is all said and done, fresh install on an SSD, what else needs to be done? Well, the actual bottleneck is the BIOS. More specifically, in our cases now, the UEFI. Now, while this will apply in part to the more traditional BIOSes that are now becoming extinct like the dinosaurs, we do have to take into account many of the functions the BIOSes actually have to do, and then modify them. So A, you have to make sure the fast boot is on. No fast boot, very slow boot. That is very simple to understand for most people. Fast boot makes computer boot faster. Then the next thing is, what does a BIOS actually do? Well, it actually seeks the drive where the operating system is on. If you plug a bunch of peripherals into it, it will actually go through all the peripherals before eventually getting to the operating system drive. So things like optical drives and USB drives will actually be queried. They will actually show up with no operating system and then they'll shove all the way to your drive that actually has. Well, every time you introduce a new item, it will actually slow down your computer's BIOS from actually loading Windows in the first place. So what do? Well, you actually just make sure that only the SSD is part of the boot priority. So by disabling every single other drive from the boot priority, you will actually boot directly to the SSD drive that has the fresh install of Windows. And another thing you can do to cut down on time is to actually get rid of any delay that has to do with the user, you pressing things like delete F1 and F2. If you reduce all those times to 0, you will get the maximum amount of time savings out of your computer. How much time savings are we talking about? Well, my current computer has an i7-4790K coupled with a Z97 Asus Sabertooth Mark I and a GTX 970 card to actually have the most amount of current gen power, and I have a 4-second boot time thanks to a Kingston HyperX 240 gig drive that actually has my operating system on it. So it doesn't need to be a super fancy computer. It doesn't even need to be anything quite amazing. Mine might be amazing, but it's still not an X99 board. But I still got a 4-second boot time. And anything short of 10 seconds is pretty amazing. So first of all, If you have already done this, write down your boot time down below on YouTube, on BlipTV or Vimeo, wherever you actually are watching me, or go to my website, tqaweekly.com/SE5EP14. Don't forget to subscribe, and make sure you share this episode with others who want to make your computer actually make their computer boot faster. And before I forget anything, yeah, that geek wall behind me took me all weekend to do. It's one of those IKEA pieces that I had to build by myself. Yes. So that is what it looks like, people. And that is the wall above. So all the Nerf guns and the Killzone guns, all there. So yes, that's an RC Copter with a Dalek, the Sonic Screwdriver, and yes, NVIDIA Shield and the Batpig. So, if you want to send me anything, all you have to go and do is to go to tqaweekly.com. There's my address there. You can send anything for that if you want. And of course, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so.